Welcome to the Contagious Code podcast, where we dive deep into code, learn practical skills, celebrate the beauty of engineering, and eliminate imposter syndrome. I am Tejas Kumar, and I've been building on the web for over 20 years at places like Vercel, Spotify, Zeta, and more. Today on the podcast, my guest is Lou Wilson. Lou is an engineer at tldraw. tldraw is an interactive web-based, canvas-based whiteboard where you use it just like you would any whiteboard. You would draw stuff, you would draw diagrams, etc. tldraw, though, is open source and a lot more rich media. What you can do on tldraw is you can paste in images, video feeds, and more. Lou leads the creation of really interesting research projects and experiments at tldraw that we dive into today. For example, Lou leads or worked on a tool called Make Real. Okay, what is Make Real? Make Real, just imagine a whiteboard. And on your whiteboard, you draw a sketch, like a user interface, maybe a mobile app you're working on. This is where the list is, and this is where the user's avatar. You draw a user interface. Then you draw an arrow, you point to it, and you say, Make Real on the whiteboard. And then with AI, it actually becomes like a working, functional user interface. Now, this went viral, and we talk about that in detail in this episode. Lou also works on tools like real-time camera AI image generation at tldraw. What that means is you have a real-time live video feed on your whiteboard, and you can prompt it. You can say, turn this into a medieval style, turn this into a science fiction style, and it takes your like webcam input and turns it into like a cool creative art form based on your prompt. It's so cool. And then finally, Lou also works on tldraw Computer, which is exactly what it sounds like. You model on the whiteboard, you draw a diagram of like, okay, when I receive this input, go through this channel, get this from this database, connect it to this system, and do it out. You can draw like a flow diagram, and it actually just, you can then press a play button and make it work. And you can see the data kind of flowing between states. It's so cool. It's literally like coding, but on a whiteboard with diagrams, but it's functional. And all of this is enabled with AI, and Lou has worked on this. So of course, in our discussion today, we talk about all that. We talk about what it takes to build an open source canvas whiteboard thing, and then what it takes to make it rich with media, images, video, and so on, and then what it takes to make it come alive with AI projects like Make Real, tldraw Computer, and more. If you're a faithful listener to the podcast, you may notice that today's episode is somewhat shorter than usual, and that's because it's allergy season, and Lou but Lou Lou suffered from a lot of allergies, as you hear towards the end of the episode, where we decided, okay, let's just wrap up. We have enough. It's still, regardless, a truly incredible episode. If you're interested in what it takes to make a canvas whiteboard on the web, if you're interested in how AI can make experiences come alive, tools like Make Real and so on, then this episode is for you. Now, I'd like to, of course, offer this to everybody at no cost, and this is very separate to my day job. And the way we can do that is through partners and sponsors. Let's take a moment to acknowledge our partner, Codecrafters, and if you're interested to partner with the podcast, that would definitely be something we'd be up for. There's a link to my X profile in the show notes. Feel free to drop me a DM there. The Contagious Code podcast is partnered with Codecrafters. Codecrafters is a great way to level up your programming skills and your knowledge of programming tools. How it works is you choose a tool that developers use, a tool like Git, Redis, Docker, something like that. And then you choose a programming language that you may not know, Rust, Elixir, Golang. And what they'll do is they'll hold your hand as you build the tool, Redis, Docker, Git, in the language you choose, Rust, whatever. And so by doing that, you get better at the programming language and better at the tool. It's like a great 2-for-1. They have a generous free tier if you want to start paying and get a huge discount. There's a link in the show notes below. That's tej.as/codecrafters. Thank you so much for sticking around. Here's my discussion with Lou Wilson. Lou Wilson, it's such an honor having you on the podcast.
Hey, really happy to be here. I've been looking forward to this.
Me too. I'm so excited. We've crossed paths at a previous event with DataStax where you did a cool talk, and I want this to be really just an extension of that because you showed so many great things, and I've been following your work for so long. In fact, in the speaker room over there, we goofed around quite a lot with dynamic AI image generation. I made myself muscular, which was interesting to see. And so
Yeah.
I'm interested to talk about the crazy work you're doing at tldraw.
Great. I mean, I'm so excited to be on this podcast. I think we said back then that it would be great to do an episode together, and we're finally doing it. But actually, quite a lot has happened in tldraw land since then, I guess.
Let's maybe
We
start the discussion
Yeah.
with telling everyone what tldraw is and what you do there.
Oh yeah, sure, of course. So tldraw, we're a startup here in London. I'm in Finsbury Park. I'm in one of the little recording booths here. We build whiteboard technology. So um, we build tldraw.com, this virtual whiteboard that everyone can use for free. And our business is around selling the SDK for that whiteboard. So we sell to other developers to build their own whiteboard features or products. And I guess people take it in all sorts of different ways to build different canvas things, right? So that's tldraw.
Um, I have so many questions about the business model of selling an SDK to developers because it's kind of rare if you think about it, but maybe not. Maybe LiveBlox, Stripe, these are examples of SDKs also. But before we do that,
Mm-hmm.
I know you, Lou, from just really like I say this with as much respect as I can, but really
Uh-oh.
unhinged, cool experimental work. And I
Unhinged.
yeah,
Yeah.
but I mean unhinged positively because honestly,
Thank you.
the web used to be unhinged a long
Mm-hmm.
time ago. You remember like these under construction gifs and the dancing babies, and I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That GeoCities, you know, I
Uh-huh.
consider that a little bit unhinged because it was fun, it was creative, it was whimsical. And then I don't know, something happened. Everyone got to know that SAS requires like a special gradient set and tailwind, and everyone's using inter, and cool, now it's boring. And so that's how I
Right.
mean
I mean,
unhinged.
Int
I'm
is
like, wow,
good.
you
Int is good,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, and so Inter is great, but I challenge us to do more. But I'm curious. The last thing I saw of your great work was, as we mentioned, this image generation thing. I think you were using FAL, but also Make Real. Do you want to tell us a little bit about maybe? Let's start with Make Real and that, and then we can go from there.
Yeah, I mean, so to give some context behind that,
Yes.
here at tldraw, like in the office, um, we have to solve a lot of problems to do with canvases, right? You know, some of that is like figuring out how to get perfect ink, on your screen. So when you like draw with your cursor or a stylus, it looks nice and gloopy and inky. Some of that's
Yeah.
to do with like the arrows that really hug shapes nicely. Some of that's to do with making it fast and like the synchronization. Um, and of course, nowadays in the year 2025, or maybe it was 2023 back then, I can't remember now. Um, we need to figure out, right, how does this kind of primitive, this canvas engine, how does this fit in with AI? And I guess one of the nice things is that because it is this SDK that other people can use, lots of people do experiments of their own. And we saw this one experiment pretty much instantly after vision models came out for the first time. Um, and it was this guy, this talented engineer called Sawyer Hood, made a little prototype where you could draw like a little picture of a website and give it in tldraw and then give it to a vision model, and it would create a little website. Um, so we saw this, and I guess as people who work on canvases like day, oh, my video just cut out. Hang on. What? Did you see
You're
that?
fine. Yeah, it's weird.
I'll
This
just keep
happens,
going.
but yeah, yeah, I can
All
still see
right.
you. It's all good.
So we saw this experiment, and we knew that you could take it further, right? Like we knew that it's not just the canvas is not where you draw the website, but it's also where you can put back this generated website and then like iterate on it further. And we did that. We made this like workflowy tool called Make Real that lets you collaborate with a model to make like increasingly more detailed websites. And it just exploded, and I guess the reception was crazy. We like the whole team was working on adding new features and taking it further. Yeah, and that really started a lot of this.
So it was the first of its kind, maybe the first cool, creative, potentially unhinged tool. Which I find it interesting because okay, so it sounds like it's 2025, so everybody needs to get on AI because this is the thing that people are interested in, and so then it's like, how can we do it? And your team had the idea of creating Make Real. I didn't realize there was a vision model in there because, like, as far as I know, everything on the whiteboard slash canvas of tldraw is serializable.
Hmm.
Right? Okay, so then I
Yeah,
would have guessed like you just serialize a bunch of the squiggles and ask an LLM to like,
right.
uh,
You
yeah.
just serialize it, right? It's never that simple. Like, so at that stage, I think the first day, right, it was just a screenshot. It was just sending a screenshot to the model, and it was only running on that. I guess the interesting part is when we were sending it back, something that it had created, we couldn't necessarily take a screenshot of that because,
Mm,
that could be any kind of web content. So what we were doing is we were just replacing what it had made with like a white rectangle, and we told it, well, this is where in the user's like annotations and drawings, this white rectangle represents like the generated website, and figure it out. Here's the HTML.
wow.
Figure out like what a person is pointing to with an arrow. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And we realized pretty soon that like it was making a lot of OCR errors, like it was misreading letters. So we
Right.
gave it like this reference of every single bit of text on the canvas as well. Um, and that helped to like it was able to match up these different bits of information, and put them together, which at the time was crazy. Like now I know that's how these multimodal models work, right?
Yeah. Where did it go at its peak? Did people actually build like full websites with it in the end?
Yeah, I mean, okay, so like the exciting thing is that once you generate a website from drawing a picture, um, that's not, at that point that's not that impressive, right? We know that these models um, can create websites, create JavaScript, HTML. Um, the craziest examples were where we had seen people like then go back and annotate on top of that, make some edits, and then create a new website and annotate on top of that and make some edits, and continue and continue and continue. And we've seen clips of people like spending hours within this thing, like I want to say fine tuning, but that means something else in the AI world, right? Like tweaking their generated website time and time again until they, I guess, get something that they really want. Um, I've seen people make little games, make little tools, make, I guess, just explore ideas as well. But I think when this came out, it was just a point where like people were using vision models for the first time, so people were trying to see what these things could do, and that I think that was the most exciting part for me, is that it was the first time people were using
Yeah.
some of these new tools and they're able to just draw on top of it and play, you know?
Yeah, totally. Did anyone make Flappy Bird with it? That'd be cool.
Oh yeah, I mean, I've seen people make Flappy Bird. Like it was crazy seeing like all the TikToks and stuff of people like showing like, hey, check out this crazy new AI project from tldraw. It's called Make Real, like, and yeah, people made all the classics. Internally as a team, um we made, well, I guess like I was interested in trying to find the cases where it broke and where it stopped working. It was very cool, like putting it in the hands of designers, actually, or like people who are more design minded than myself, because like the level of detail they're able to go into with like their mock up. led to a better result. So, when I do a demo of Make Real, they end up being kind of basic, kind of like
Yeah.
they're illustrative examples. When Steve does a demo with Make Real and he's like got this meticulously designed, like, like 4 different screens, all annotated with little like indications of how like the animation of buttons works. That's really cool to see, when it goes to another level.
Steve being the founder and CEO of tldraw.
Yeah.
Cool. So okay, so that's Make Real. That's how it started. That's how it went. You said this was the first of its kind. I remember seeing some type of like computer app with I think you know what I'm talking about. Like you basically model. I think it's a state machine with
Yeah.
arrows, and then you click play and it does stuff. Was that the successor? Or were there intermediary products in
Yeah, I
between?
mean, I would say that's so. Make Real was the first of these experimental products. tldraw Computer is the most recent one.
Awesome.
It came out of, I guess, uh, like Gemini 2 was coming out, and so we built this product to, I guess, explore what you can do with newer, faster models. And hey, it was just this great opportunity for us to uh, try out some more things from our large list of things we want to build. So yeah, it's basically a canvas computer, right? I think it's Steve said it's how he used to think that computers worked as a kid, right?
Mm.
um, it's like a workflow diagram. So you can put down components, you can connect them together with our arrows, and these components can be many different types. They can be text, they can be image, they can be a drawing, they can be a file that you upload. Um, and by connecting them together, you can write with natural language, you can write instructions of what the model should do to this data, right? So on the one hand, you could tell it something simple like double this number, or you could say, I don't know, take all the inputs, give me a recipe that I could mm, like follow using these ingredients, or it could be like, hey, make a pitch out of this product idea. I guess the fun part is that you can like stack them up. So you could like have many different steps, even some loops and some like branching conditions. So for me, the fun part about this is that it's the first time that I've been able to like play with multi-step prompting and agentic workflows, right?
Mm.
I believe is the term that's getting used nowadays. Um, like AI products nowadays, they're never one step. They're never one step, right?
Yeah.
They're always, take the user input, modify it in some way, pull out the task we're supposed to do, you know, maybe do some RAG in there, maybe do something else, some tool use, and then we take all that and then we give the user a response. Like there's so many steps, and it kind of pains me that those steps are usually very invisible.
Mm.
As a user, you can't see them,
Yeah.
and even if you can see them, you can't go and edit them. You can't play with them and like get to know how these things are working. Um, so hey, if we put it on a canvas so you can see it all and you can change any part of it and you can even see like the data moving along with these little dots that move along the diagram, then that's why it was so exciting for me. Yeah, tldraw computer at tldraw.computer.
Dot computer is a top level domain. Wow. Cool.
Yes, it is. Yes,
Wow.
it is. I like dot computer because it sounds like you're going to say dot com. It's like
Yeah. Yeah.
tldraw.com. computer, you know?
Yeah, that's we'll definitely put links to that in the show notes. I'm curious. I haven't used the tldraw computer very much, and definitely not as much as Make Real.
Hmm.
Does it support network requests? Like, can I make a little note in my workflow and say like, go
Yeah,
get this?
yeah. Yeah,
Wow.
so like I mean, we released this thing and again it really picked up, and so we immediately got loads of like suggestions from people using it. So on the next day, yeah, we added the ability to send like, get requests and post requests. And we also added file support on that first day. So you can like,
Wow.
upload a JSON or a CSV or an export, or you can just get tldraw to computer to generate one. So yeah, there's a lot more we could do with this. It's it's this thing that like, runs in your browser tab. But imagine if you could, I don't know, like create a little workflow for a model to do and then just deploy it or leave it running all day, as long as you have
Mm.
the tokens. There's a lot more I think we could do with tldraw computer, and I
It
hope we will.
it sounds like you could, if you wanted to, build like your own Iron Man style Jarvis type of thing, right? Because you just draw a big loop, and the cool thing is it's just a drawing. Like if you can draw it on a
Hmm.
whiteboard, it can exist. At least that's what the promise sounds like. So you can just draw like a big loop, like check my email, check my calendar. If nothing, do nothing. If there's an event, tell me like with some voice model or something. 11 Labs, I think they do voice stuff.
Yeah,
You could, is that realistic? Like you think someone could just build like a full on assistant with this?
I mean, I, I don't want to make any crazy promises, but uh, I think so. I mean, listen, Tejas. There like there are so many different ways to build like LLM tools right now, right? And I think people are realizing that like it shouldn't just be something that only programmers can do, you know? Like I can sit down and write a huge chain of, you know, LLM calls. But really it's quite simple. Like the maybe it's more like fiddly to set up these calls. It's just fiddly. Like the kind of understanding you need isn't necessarily like the understanding of a programmer or a technical person. It's kind of common sense. And so um but if you want to do something like that where you have like multiple steps in something like ChatGPT, it it's such a pain. It takes so long, right? And I think it's a shame that that kind of like use of LLMs is like stuck in the land of programmers right now. Does that make
Yeah.
sense? Yeah.
I, I kind of get it, but your
Hmm.
last sentence, stuck in the land of programmers. I don't get you. Do you mean the kind of usage LLMs that programmers do? Meaning like they make network requests, they write code to tie everything together. You're saying that part ideally isn't just with developers, but with everybody. Everybody should be able to just like tie a bunch of LLM responses together and solve any problem they want.
Yeah. Okay. I
Yeah.
guess so. Like before ChatGPT came out, like you could use LLMs if you used the like OpenAI's playground,
Yeah.
but it involved a lot of configuration. It wasn't really a product. It was just to try out this endpoint. And like ChatGPT coming out kind of changed the landscape
Mm.
because I guess suddenly it showed that this capability can be a user product that everyone can use, right? And I think for OpenAI, right, they knew that this product could exist for a long time, and I think there's like some interviews where they state that well, no one was doing it, so we had to build it ourselves to
Mm.
show people that it was possible. And like now obviously everyone knows how to use like a chatbot, a chat LLM.
Yeah.
I think we haven't yet seen like multi-step LLM use enter that product world. You still have to sit down and write some code or like configure a playground or something like that, you know? So
Totally.
I think it hasn't been solved yet. We haven't figured out how to like let people create AI workflows in a really, really easy way. You know, we're seeing more people try to make products for it, but I don't think we've got there yet.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I work on Langflow, which tries to be that. There's N8N that tries to be
Mhm.
that. There's a lot of, I think, there's everybody wants to be the AI workflow tool. But I think tldraw is in such a unique position here because it doesn't get simpler than I'm going to literally just whiteboard this out,
Yeah, I
and
mean,
and then it becomes functional.
yeah, I mean, something like Langflow is great, and but I feel like maybe the target audience of Langflow is a little bit different to tldraw Computer, right? Like
Yeah.
Langflow feels it's like a developer tool, right?
Yes.
Whereas something like tldraw Computer, like people on the team here, they play tldraw Computer with their kids, you know,
Mm,
and if your kid can do it, then you can do it.
I like that. I like that
So
a lot.
yeah.
What are some things people are building with tldraw Computer that are delivering value? Maybe business value, maybe otherwise. Because like so, I have a use case in mind where for me, like this is just something I do that's a little bit neurotic, but whatever. We all have our own neuroses. For me, I every single morning when I wake up, I take a look at certain biomarkers and then I'll do statistics. I feel weird just even saying this, but like I'll calculate
It's not
the
weird.
last. I'll calculate the last 60-day average of various biomarkers, and then I'll calculate a standard deviation across that distribution, and then something called the SWC, which is the smallest worthwhile change, which is about half a standard deviation. And then I'll be like, okay, so are my numbers all over the place, or am I like good to do sports? Anyway, so this is a manual workflow. It's literally
Mhm.
like pen and paper math, and then I compare that to baselines and stuff. I could easily build this with tldraw Computer. It sounds like because I already have the flow in my mind, and I just draw it on a whiteboard. And the only thing that's maybe the challenge is to like retrieve the data from like my Aura ring and my watch and whatever. But I'm curious. That's probably something people have already built. Do you have visibility into what people are doing, and what are some interesting things that people are building with tldraw Computer?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen a lot of different things people use it for. I think one of the interesting things that came up straight away was someone built this like writing aid, so you could like put in a piece of your writing, and then it would take a look and take a writing strategy from this massive list, right? That they've, been able to upload this massive list of, hey, here's 100 different uh, ways of trying to improve your writing, and it will like take what you've written and take these tools and give you some suggestions, right? Based
Wow.
based on that. That was an interesting one because I guess um, it showed how you could put a lot of information in here. Like people were stuffing in so much into these prompts. I guess like another really fun thing we keep seeing is people like using it to create stories with their kids, right? Like genuinely, really, really valuable use to many people of I guess taking an idea, stitching it together with what happens if we take this story idea and combine it with this character, and and can you like create multiple chapters from this story? I think I have to be fully upfront. Like this is like a playground tool, right? It's a way to explore a new kind of technology that people are still only just getting used to. The things like API calls and being able to upload files. I think for me that like shows hints of what you will be able to do if this was turned into like a fully fledged product. But at this point, we're just trying to like point out to people, like, look, you can make LLM calling as simple as whiteboarding, right? There
Yeah.
like there is so much more like we will do with it. Um,
Are you
yeah.
allowed to talk about that, or is this like strategic
Sure,
and
sure. I
private?
mean, like I really want this to be able to be something that so currently when you're in the tool, you know, you it only runs when your browser tab is open, right? So I think, what would be way more useful is if you can leave things running or maybe like set up one of these like workflows as, I don't know, something you can hit go on, right? Or you can give an input from the outside from anywhere. That's one thing. I guess, but also in tldraw more generally, we are um, planning to do tons more experimentation with AI, um, like continually, and we're looking to really ramp that up.
Mm.
Not just AI, but also just newer ways of using a Canvas library.
Yeah,
Um,
it's I, I've noticed that y'all worked on autocomplete for Canvas
yeah,
as well, which it's exactly what it sounds like. I don't think we need to like define what that is because like anyone who's used like GitHub Copilot or any type of autocomplete with text, it's that but with whiteboards, which I think is very cool because you can have an AI suggest to you, hey, maybe you want to complete your diagram with this. If we tie that with the computer, that opens up a whole awesome set of solutions, right? Because you could, in your computer sketch, you may not know what the next logical step is, or you may not know that a feature could be helped. You may not even know like you need this feature, but you have that suggestion. That's cool. Does the tldraw computer have this autocomplete feature? Have you merged those two yet?
not yet. So I mean, okay, part of the appeal of something like tldraw computer is that can it has like the capability in the future of combining together a lot of these different projects that we've been working on, right? So one of the things that tldraw computer does is like the website generation that we saw with something like Make Real, right?
Right.
And it's like it's a kind of a more of a meta tool, for different AI features on the canvas. Um, One of the things that we could add is a component that like that's more like autocomplete that generates canvas content on the canvas, right? Um, we haven't done it yet, but that would like it's a very modular system in the sense that we can add more components to it. So that would be a great thing to add. Autocomplete was really a really interesting one because it was so hard. Like I can't.
Sounds like it.
It was like like as soon as Make Real happened, um, we got to work on tons of different experiments. Like, wow, we can do this on the canvas with AI. What else on the canvas can we do? And one of those was playing around with the classic image generation, like drawing something on the whiteboard and seeing it turn into an image in real time. That one was actually pretty straightforward, right? We have
Yeah.
real time models, we have a good whiteboard. Great. Match made in
Was
heaven.
this the one we played with backstage?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
that's
Okay.
right. And
Nice.
because tldraw is all web based, you can put anything on that, which includes like a webcam feed, which is pretty fun. And you can like draw on top of
Yeah.
your face and right, but to be honest, like from a technology standpoint, that one's pretty more straightforward. Like
Yeah.
that's a very clear fit. Great. Autocomplete on a canvas was really, really puzzling. Or like just full stop getting an LLM to create Canvas content, they just suck, right? They
Yeah.
suck at it, or at least they sucked back then when we didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
Um, we tried so many different approaches to getting an LLM to steer a canvas, And the one that stuck was that autocomplete example. And it turned into this product called Teach, which is like a chat, but on like an AI chat, but on a canvas. Instead of responding with text, the LLM responds with canvas shapes and drawings and things.
Is
Right.
this close to the thing that I challenged you to build earlier with math notes? You remember this? Because that's kind of autocomplete, no, on a canvas.
Right. So this was like a similar time, right? And we should okay. I completely forgot about that one. So, yeah, I mean, so what? Apple released their calculator app for
Yeah.
iPad, which I didn't realize people were waiting for that, but apparently it was a huge deal, right? And as part of that, uh, they they added this canvas to their calculator where you can, write a sum or something, and when you write equals, it kind of auto completes the sum, the calculation, right? Which is pretty cool. And when that happened, tons and tons of people were atting us on Twitter, right? Saying like, "Hey, tldraw, you can do this in tldraw, right?" And some people are like, "tldraw, are you just gonna sit there and let Apple do this?" So we, yeah, we built a similar thing, right? We
Yeah.
showed, yeah, you can do this in tldraw. So
You did that. You did that in like 2 days, right? I remember. It
yeah,
was pretty
it was
quick.
very fast. Yeah, we did it in like 2 days, or like one
Wow.
1.5 days. But like, I guess that's the point of having a Canvas SDK, right? You want to get like 90% of the way there, and then 10% is playing with whatever new technology appears, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So
And
you built that, and this was what, some type of precursor to the autocomplete, because it was autocomplete.
okay, I think what actually happened was we had autocomplete. Autocomplete was being developed at a similar time. It was already, um, I think it was already pretty much done then. And I was also experimenting with, like, Gemini is really good at doing accurate bounding boxes. Like you can give it a screenshot and it will like quite accurately tell you like which pixel coordinates different things are. And I think I pretty much, um, I think what happened was we kind of combined those two experiments into like teal draw maths or whatever we called it, draw maths. I don't know. And
Okay.
yeah, so some of that like autocomplete logic was there, um, but really that was quite a bit simpler than autocomplete because it didn't have to like create shapes on the canvas. Like it didn't have to create drawings. It just had to pump out numbers. Like it wasn't doing the maths calculations itself. It just needed
Right.
to like pump out the the calculations that you needed to do.
Right. And then the next logical step you said was teach the product. I imagine you said it was super hard.
Yeah.
I imagine it was probably super hard also because autocomplete in general with text is like is linear. The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy, like that's super linear.
Yeah.
But your canvas is like spatial and not
Yeah.
linear, and also like infinitely spatial. As
Right.
like
Right.
tldraw is called an infinite canvas, so
Yeah.
you have to somehow account for like everything on the canvas, even if they're like millions of pixels apart.
Right.
Was that part of the complexity?
I mean that's one of like 1,000 decisions you have to make, like
Wow.
when building that sort of thing. You know, like just think about it. Like, how do you get an LLM to use a canvas? There are so many different approaches you can take. You can say, "Oh, I'm gonna let it control the mouse." You know,
Yeah.
like move mouse here, click, move mouse here, unclick. Right? You could say, actually, you need to output like a JSON format of the canvas, or maybe you actually no, you need to give instructions like create shape, delete square, whatever. And then like inside those formats, like you have like thousands more micro decisions. Like, are you gonna stick with like the JSON format that we use already, or is it gonna be something custom? And hey, what happens if you like leave off something? Like how does it delete things? Does it have to like explicitly say which ones to delete, or do we just get rid of the things that it omits? Like there are so many micro decisions, and like it's really inconsistent in how it does those, right? There's not like a standard format out there. So we tried them all, and one of them stuck, which which was quite a surprising approach, really. I think it was like when we're at our wits' end a little bit, um, and yeah, and it's turned into this AI module that we've put out, which is basically a much more stripped back version where like we now know what kind of skeleton that feature needs, like the ability to generate canvas content, but it has like some big holes where we've tried to future proof it, you know, like we built Teach for, I think it was Sonnet 3.5, really, but um time is rumbling. Oh my god.
It's lunchtime.
It's not lunchtime. It's Tage's time. So we built this thing to be future proof, right? So we don't know what new models are going to come out each year. We don't know what new strategies teams are going to find, but we think we know the shape of the problem. So we made this module basically out of that Teach and Autocomplete work. And like as of last month, I think people have taken it into production, which is quite exciting.
Awesome.
Didn't expect it to
Awesome.
happen so fast, but it's great.
That's so yeah. That's on GitHub tldraw/AI is the repo. We'll put a link to that in the show notes.
Great.
I think what's so awesome about this is, well, I honestly I don't know, but I would, if I was to venture a guess, was it? And you can actually teach me a little bit here about how tldraw works, because there's a finite set of shapes you can draw. Right, you can't just like, there's no pen tool to just draw whatever you want, and I think that constraint would probably have made this slightly easier than if it was like just draw any shape. Draw me a ribbon, for example.
Yeah, I mean, so there is a finite set of shapes. So you want to tell the model what's available in some way, right?
Yeah.
That definitely makes it easier, but it's you still need to teach it about the canvas in other ways. Like you need
right,
to
because
like,
LLMs don't know how to draw. They're language models. They're not like drawing models. Yeah, right. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, so the interesting thing is that like these models naturally like go for certain approaches over others. There's even like questions like which way is up and down on the canvas, right? When it's positioning shapes, which way does it think Y goes, right? That's like such a basic thing that you need to tell it somehow about your canvas. And the interesting thing is that if we let it do what it naturally does, it tends to be quite consistent, right? So even if it's wrong about our canvas, as long as it's consistent, we can like map it onto our canvas pretty well. It will naturally have like a guess at what shapes we have available as well, right? It thinks we have a rectangle shape available. We do, right? It thinks we have an arrow available. We do. So a lot of our work was like tweaking its knowledge, rather than starting it from scratch. It was like just guiding it here and there. There were certain things that it was naturally really bad at, like writing SVG paths. Like it's quite a fiddly format, and LLMs really suck at it. Or they
interesting. That's so interesting, because like when I write websites now with Cursor, and I need to like add social media links with icons, I'll press Command K and I'll be like generate an Instagram SVG, And I guess it knows how to do that because it's seen in the training data so many Instagram icon SVGs.
Yeah.
But yeah, interesting. So if it's just some like esoteric shape, it's probably going to struggle. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So like, yeah, if it's something that it's probably seen many times, it's all fine. But if it's like trying to manually position points on a line, it's way harder. What it's much better at is like literally an array of points instead. So, instead of like D equals and then some SVG
Yeah.
gobbledygook, it's much better at doing like points equals and then an array of 2D points. And for some reason, it naturally kind of does both of those about half the time, but is much better at one than the other. So a lot of getting autocomplete to work was like steering it to specific things.
Hmm.
And that seems like a pretty worthwhile problem for us to try and solve. Um, like we spend a lot of time with the canvas, and it's yeah. There's it was fun. It was fun.
How then do you evaluate that the LLM has done the right thing? Do you have some type of like eval library or framework? Because you have to know, right? Like to surface something to the user.
Yeah, I mean, like one of the points of Teach was for us to be able to see what people do with it and see how well it does, right? So that eval question is still unsolved. I was just looking at outputs and seeing how well it was doing, um, and looking for common errors, right? So it was very, I don't know, ad hoc, right? But now, like we have a lot of data now, of what these LLMs output and what it results in, um, and part of the question is how to use that effectively. Like, um, like one thing that we've seen teams explore is, um, I guess, depending on the user query that comes in, um, using some like good generations as like a extra bit of prompting, right?
Mm, yeah.
This sounds very fuzzy and vague, and it's because it's like an unsolved problem on the
Yeah. Yeah.
canvas.
Totally. You hinted at experiments where the AI takes a more active role, right? Not just like suggesting with autocomplete, but actually, I think you put it as like playing on the canvas, right, with the user. Um, AI plays tldraw.
Yeah,
I think this is interesting because like it's what I get when I hear this is like some type of jazz band, where like they just sort of the musicians just pick up on each other's cues. I'm
yeah.
curious if you can tell us more about that. Like how, at what level of agency are we talking here? Because I'm not sure if you probably have, knowing your penchant for experimental stuff. You've probably explored websim.ai, right?
Hmm.
Which is
Yeah,
is so it's almost fully proactive, except the user has to navigate to some web property and then it generates the page.
right. I
I'm
mean,
wondering,
WebSim's interesting for a few reasons,
yeah,
right?
yeah, and with tldraw, for example, tldraw computer, what if there was like just a blank like it was literally just like about blank, like a blank page, and then a user logs on, and the first thing they see is like an agent or an AI just drawing the UI. Hey, welcome to TLDR Computer. Here's some things you can do. Wouldn't that be banana? So I'm curious, like in terms of like AI plays TLDR live,
Yeah.
where are we and where are we going?
I mean, this is one of the earliest things we were experimenting with, which is, like, what's the nature of this AI collaborator that you have? Because something like Make Real and Computer and even Teach, they're kind of invisible, really. That this like AI collaborator is just somewhere, you know.
Yeah.
They're kind of part of the product. We did try a few times with having like a fake cursor, like, so on tldraw.com, if me and you join the same board, I'll see your cursor moving around the screen, and you know we can chat with each other via cursor chat. We can like wave our little cursors at each other, and despite it just being a cursor, there's quite a lot of communication you can do in that way, especially if you're like talking over voice chat at the same time. So, we did try like having an AI cursor on the canvas with you. I think back then it wasn't compelling enough for that uh for that like to make the most of it, like you want to be able to make the most of it. You don't want it to just be like a robotic thing that does some work and then leaves. You want to be able to, like, I don't know, shake your cursor over it to grab its attention. There's this great guy, Matt Webb, did some experimentation with this as well using tldraw, where like the AI cursor sort of like sits spinning in its little home, right? And as you're doing something on the canvas, I mean, it's a little bit like Clippy, right? One of them was
Right.
so, and you actually have like a few different cursors like in their little home, say like watching what you're doing and saying, "Oh, it looks like I could help with that," right? And they kind of had like different personalities. Like one was like I think I think one of them was like a cleanup one, but you could imagine you have like a little collaborator that's really good at, I don't know, adding detail or like connecting to other ideas. And I'm not sure that's the way to go. I don't know if we want to recreate Clippy, but like in a canvas, a canvas feels more like a space than just say like a chat or a document,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And so I think I think that uh, that kind of space sharing is going to be a much more important part of collaboration.
Yeah.
I don't
Interesting.
know.
This reminds me of the Dia browser, right? By the browser company. Have you seen this?
Yeah, yeah,
They have exactly that, like a cursor that sits somewhere in its home and then like comes alive when you want AI assistance for navigating the web. I haven't used it, but it sounds very similar to what you're describing.
yeah. I mean, I think it's the thing is, I feel like you can kind of get halfway there, and then it's a bit disappointing, right? I think
That's like
that
AI in
sounds
general.
so shady. Sounds so shady. But like I don't know. I think I like when you're in a canvas collaborating with someone, like I don't know, like I just jump into a Figma and see, and like I come across another cursor. It's like a designer who's working on something. Like you shake your cursor around, like you communicate, you type something, you like drag something around. There's like there's a kind of like there's some body language we kind of do there, right?
Totally.
Anyway,
Yeah,
but
cursor language,
that's more wild. We're going like more unhinged, more theoretical. But
which is what we love. Well, I'd love to start. I know you've got an extremely busy schedule, so I'd love to start wrapping up by asking maybe some more, I'd say, holistic questions for developers. Because like I think your job sounds really cool, right? You get to build cool experiments and make things practical and useful. And honestly, they're not tied to like, I think the vast majority of developers who work for companies like tldraw, which is a company at the end of the day, a business. A lot of developers tend to get bogged down by like, hey, what are our KPIs and OKRs and how are you like making more profit and stuff, which I'm sure you have to deal with. But at the same time, you get to build cool experiments towards that.
yeah,
I wonder. I wouldn't be surprised if there were some developers somewhere split. You know what I mean? Like I think
yeah,
it's very cool and useful for advancing the way we think about and reason with AI and language models.
yeah,
But I'm fairly sure there's some out there who go like, yeah, that's just a gimmick.
yeah, yeah,
Which I'm curious if you could speak to the tension between these two poles. Like on the one hand, this is really cool stuff, making AI accessible to like everyone, even people's children, versus the people who would be like this total gimmick. Like I'm not going to use this at all.
yeah. That's a great question. I love it. Yeah, I mean, so I guess since Make Real, we've really, I guess, rediscovered the value in doing experiments and doing out there products. you know, I think on the one hand, they're great marketing, right? Like, we're trying to tell people that we have this SDK and you can do anything with it. And it's much easier to show that than to tell people that, right? Like, look, let me show you. Here's 5 ridiculous things you can do with AI. Sometimes it is more useful, and sometimes it's more gimmicky, and sometimes it's both, right? And and it's nice to be able to, I guess, create experiments that go across that range. You know, we had things like Make Real and Computer go really viral. Something like Teach was much less viral, but 6 months down the line, we have many people asking us, "Hey, how did you do that?" Right? I want to try this out, and then that led into the AI module, which I guess improves our product. On the other hand, like doing all of these experiments really pushes our SDK. We're taking our SDK and pulling it to places that it hasn't gone before. And so we learn a lot about what we need in an SDK. When we did Make Real, we realized, oh, I need to be able to export screenshots like really easily. You could do it, but we made it tons easier. When we were doing Autocomplete, we realized, hey, we need a way to show like hints of shapes. I want to kind of half show a shape, but then I don't want to mess up the like undo history stack. And sometimes when you accept like a change, I need to be able to undo that change. But on a canvas, it like undo and redo can get a bit fuzzy, especially when there's
Yeah.
multiple people collaborating. So that led to some changes with how we handle history. Um, and then I guess the fine like another use is that we like we're creating like starters essentially for other people to then go and build on top of. So like we have our Make Real starter, which um, people can take, and maybe they don't build like a website generating product, but they'll build some sort of other AI product using it. So like I think to people who are wondering about experimentation at their own companies, I would not don't think of it as just one output, right? It's not all for marketing. It's not all for educating people about what's possible. It's not all about like yourself learning something, but the chances are that when you do an experiment like that creates something that you haven't done before, you're gonna get some positive output. And then like the best cases, it's gonna do all 3 of those things and more. Like Make Real was probably like the perfect example of that. Like it showed people what you could do with the library, it pushed the library itself, and it gave us loads of good visibility to developers for the first time. So that's why we're doing more. I've been speaking so much, Tejas.
Yeah. Did it feel free to not answer this, but did it significantly affect your company's revenue? I mean, because the
Yeah.
reason I ask, there's so many companies who we don't want to do it if it's not gonna get us like leads, and there's so much of, I feel like so much innovation and experimentation is just hamstrung by business process,
Yeah.
unfortunately. And so I'm curious if you could speak to the business impact of these.
Yeah, I mean, Make Real. Oh my God, I'm dying. I'm dying. Do you get
It's
hay
okay.
fever?
I do. Lou, while you drink that, I just need to also just mention that you are one of my favorite people in the world to talk to, because you're so
Thank you.
like loose and casual, and I love it. You're just like, also you used the word, you said something so fantastic. You said fuzzy. You just described something as canvas. Canvas is fuzzy,
Yeah.
and I've heard,
Yeah.
I speak to a lot of people, as you know, and some people will have like explicitly avoid using words like fuzzy because, oh, that doesn't sound like smart, and so I have to say like non, I have to say stochastic. And I love,
Stochastic.
yeah, and I love the whimsy with which
Yeah.
you approach all of these like deeply complex topics. I think that's such a gift and such a blessing, and frankly such a delight to me on the podcast, that I have to call that out while you like choke to death. Anyway,
Thank you.
yeah.
Well,
So go ahead.
No, yeah, of course. I mean, and and I guess like I want to avoid using big words if I don't have to. Like I'm not trying to impress anyone about myself, you know? I'm trying to share, I guess, the joy I have for working on something insanely visual and powerful, So yeah, anyway, but yeah, of course, we put out Make Real, and oh my God, we had so many people knocking on our door, wanting to use tldraw, wanting to invest in tldraw. It was great for us because we got to show people our product time and time again. We we got to introduce it to new people. We got to show people who already knew what it is, like even more that it could do. The like Sure, we were showing off some AI capabilities, but that wasn't us, like we were showing the canvas. And like the funny thing is, if we have like made all the correct UX decisions around a canvas, like you shouldn't notice it too much, right?
Right.
People don't like people when people use it, they shouldn't really be thinking about that. They should be thinking about like the task they're doing, right? Which is maybe wireframing, maybe annotating. And so like it might seem hidden to many people, but it's there. Like every single person sharing something they've made in Make Real is them sharing tldraw. Um, or a lot of people like clocked, wait, hang on, you've put a website onto the canvas? Like, how did you do that? And that then we get this great conversation of like, oh great, well the fun thing about tldraw is that it's all made out of web stuff. Like you can put anything on there. You can put Desmos calculator in there. You can put your own React components in there. You can put anything in there. So yeah, it was
Fantastic.
hugely helpful for business leads. And
So good. I have two questions, and then we'll let you go. Okay. Question number one, and these are like really burning questions, so I want to ask them.
yeah,
Question number one is, how can people create such a culture where they are, a culture that rewards experimentation? Is in your case, did you just land into tldraw, and was tldraw already like that, or did you have an active role in shaping? Because there may be something to say for, I'm just going to do experiments first and then show the value, and hopefully this changes the culture, or shapes the culture. Yeah, I'm curious, like if people are listening to this and they go like, wow, okay, so there's always a benefit to experimentation. It always comes back to us in one of those ways you mentioned, and more maybe. How can they go about starting to influence culture towards that if it's not already
yeah.
there?
Okay. I guess one of the things that I see a lot is that people are afraid of sharing experimentation and sharing half done things.
Mm,
Because really, I think everyone experiments, right? Like every developer does experimentation when they're building something. I think one thing that we have always done here at tldraw is to share that experimentation. I think some people are afraid of sharing that, as sharing their like mistakes, sharing their like avenues that they don't go down. People don't want to share things if they're not sure of them. Like we're very open about sharing our bugs that we fix as well. And I think part of that is that we've always had this culture of like, we know that we work really hard on this, you know, and we know that when we release something, it will be good. We'll know that we've done the experimental work to get to that point. So, like, us sharing the mistakes and the half done bits is part of us sharing that hard work. Like if we're putting in the hard work, we may as well share it, you know? Like that's what people trust us, I think, to go the extra mile. And so there's no shame in us like sharing the process of that. And I think that kind of mentality like really lends itself to bigger, wilder experiments too. Because I think you see the value that you get like from it. So, whether your experiment is tiny, like, hey, I'm trying out like three different ways that this button could look, or whether it's big, like, hey, we're like taking a bet on this technology and we're building a product around it. I think both kind of experiments are like really part of the culture here. And like when I joined, I was building stuff in public. Steve was building stuff in public. I think that's how we we crossed paths. And so, like in the time I spent here, I've learned to do that even more. I was actually like looking back then, I was sharing way less, but from being here and kind of like absorbing that culture, like now I won't shut up about sharing.
That's awesome. That's
So
so
yeah.
cool. So it's like a recursive loop of like confidence. Ultimately, this is just confidence, which ties me into the final question. You said something so profound when I complimented you on like using the word fuzzy. You're like, yeah, I'm not trying to impress anyone. Unfortunately, that's rare. A lot of people are trying to impress people because the industry lends itself to that
Right.
for the most part. And so, like, how do you get there? How do you get to like Lou Wilson level of like, look, I'm good. I'm not trying to like wow you with my skill. I just want to like enjoy my work.
I mean, like maybe I'm not good. Like,
No, but I'm
like
good. I meant more like
I'm
I'm
okay. Yeah.
yeah, I'm okay to not impress you.
Oh my God. I think it's one of the plants in here that's killing me. But I'm,
It's the
okay.
last question. Yeah, go get some water after.
I can do it. I can do it. I think, I mean, I love what I do, right? Like, I love my job. This is such a fun job. Like working at tldraw it's just like the best place. I guess I'm very lucky in that sense. Um, so I don't know, like I'm not trying to get hired, like I'm very happy here. Um, I I'm trying to do a good job. That doesn't mean I'm trying to appear good, you know? Um, so I don't know, like at the end of the day, like at the end of the day, my self-esteem doesn't come from from appearing good. My
Where does it come from?
self-esteem comes from like knowing that I'm a person, I'm trying my best, I'm trying to do good things. So like I don't need anyone else to think that of me. It's as simple as that, really.
It's
Um
amazing.
yeah.
That's amazing. That's so incredible. And on that, what a note to end the episode on. Lou, I just want to really take a moment and just thank you and appreciate you so much. I won't spend too long with concluding the episode because I know you're gonna like sneeze or something. So I can recommend, by the way, Flonase or Fluticasone, which is a great nasal spray that helps you with hay fever. I take it every day and I have no issues. When normally I genuinely wish I was dead so I wouldn't have to deal with hay fever. Anyway,
Oh
in
my
any
God.
case.
Yeah.
On behalf of everyone listening, thank you so much for joining and sharing all of this with us today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining my discussion with Lou Wilson. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, and I hope with you that Lou recovers from the allergic reaction to the pollen or whatever it was in the air. But if you're learning from and or enjoying this episode, all of Lou's contact information is in the show notes below. There's also links to tldraw, Make Real, tldraw Computer. Everything we mentioned in the episode is in the show notes. If you're learning from and or enjoying this content, then a great way to support it is to share it with your friends, social media, however you want, because that says, hey, I found something valuable. The responsibility we have is to share valuable things with our neighbors. If you want to support in a slightly more tangible way, again, without any cost to you, a great way to do this is to leave a review on Apple or Spotify podcasts, up to 5 stars, whatever you feel is fair. That would help surface this in front of listeners. And if you're watching on YouTube, if you like the video and leave a comment, I'd listen to and read all the comments. I would love to support you either way there. Either way, I'll also subscribe to the channel on YouTube, of course. Thank you so much for sticking around. Thank you for being a part of the podcast. And most importantly, thank you for your interest in engineering.